A very big hello and warm welcome to the brand new series Homeopathy Around the World. And this is the very first episode of this series. In this series, we will be going all around the world talking to my friends, fellow homeopaths about the status of homeopathy in their country. We will be talking about homeopathic practices, homeopathic education, and we will be having many other interesting conversations all revolving around homeopathy. Today I am particularly happy because we are zooming into a country where homeopathy is recognized as a national system of medicine. And this is the place where I was born to. This is India. And joining me today from India is Dr. Atul Jaggi, who has over 20 years of experience in the world of homeopathy. Dr. Atul is also closely associated with the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy, Greece. Hi, Dr. Atul. What a pleasure to have you to join me in this very first episode of Homeopathy Around the World.
Hello, Neeta ji. And I also want to congratulate you for initiating this series of interviews. And I'm very excited for today's interview.
So am I, Dr. Atul, really. Dr. Atul, the first thing I would like to know is, could you give us some idea about popularity of homeopathy in India?
Being an Indian, we were growing in the environment of homeopathy where the people accept homeopathy. There are more than 200 homeopathic colleges in India and around 45 colleges which offer MDs. So it was a big thing, and which I realized when I understood the status of homeopathy in the world. After allopathy and Ayurveda, homeopathy is the third most famous therapeutic modality in India. So definitely we are very blessed being Indians to have this environment.
You said that it is an homeopathic environment in India. I like that.
Yeah. In India, the government has introduced Ayush, which is a department for alternative medicines. A stands for Ayurveda, then Unani, and H here stands for homeopathy.
But what made you choose homeopathy for your education and for your career? How did it occur to you?
Actually, I will be very honest. So when I was in my 12th,
Mhm.
I wanted to be a doctor. That was clear from the beginning. But it was an allopathic doctor. So I had prepared for the entrance examinations, which we have to clear. And unfortunately, I couldn't clear those entrance exams. There was this college, Nehru Homeopathic Medical College, which is one of the best colleges in India with a 100-bedded hospital. So my father said that, why don't you join this field and you will still become a doctor. But with an intention that in the first year, I will simultaneously prepare for the entrance examinations again, so that I will clear the allopathic exams and then again join for MBBS. It was my good fate that I came across the book Science of Homeopathy by Professor George Vithoulkas. And believe me, that book changed my life completely. 360 degree.
Very much with you here, Dr. Atul. The science of homeopathy, whoever reads it, I've heard it not from one, but I've heard from many of them that it
Yeah.
makes a big difference in how they approach life. May it be a homeopath, may it be a patient who has read it. They understand homeopathy better. It's a very nice book, yes.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Atul, do we know how and when homeopathy reached India?
When we used to study history of homeopathy in our colleges, there was Maharaja Ranjit Singh from Punjab, who was treated by homeopathy. I think it was some Romanian homeopath who was in India who treated him. And this is how I remember as far as that time. Even I remember in Hennamann's time, there were some missionaries in India who were prescribing homeopathic remedies. So it goes as far as that. And also, there was this doctor who is known as father of Indian homeopathy, Dr. I think Rajendra Dutt. I remember he was called as Rajan Babu. So
Hmm.
he was the father of homeopathy who actually learned and started this, bringing this environment, as I said. And he changed many allopaths. And the most prominent among them was Dr. Mahendra Lal Sarkar, who was an allopath who converted into homeopathy. So this is how it started.
So, Dr. Atul, we use the term homeopathy very often, but we
Yeah.
also come across the term classical homeopathy being used very often these days. Even your clinic has got the term there, right? It's called HT Center of Classical Homeopathy.
Right.
So, what does this term classical denote? Can you just explain for the benefit of all the viewers of all
Yeah,
time?
yeah. Let me first describe what H3 means.
Hmm.
It comes from three words, H here, health, homeopathy, and happiness. I was very amazed from a statement by Professor Vithoulkas, where he said that the purpose of medicine is to bring happiness to people. This is what all therapeutics is all about, to bring happiness to people. Very early in my life, when I saw the cures through homeopathy, I understood that homeopathy is a modality which had the possibility to give happiness. It would touch the core of the human beings and revive them from that core and bring happiness. So this is why we included three H's in our clinic. Now coming to the word classical, I must say here that this word was specifically coined by Professor Vithoulkas because he wanted to differentiate correct homeopathy from the wrong kind of homeopathy what was going on. And classical here purely means to apply homeopathy with the laws that Hahnemann had given in his organon. So this would mean giving a single remedy in a minimum dose and waiting sufficiently to understand the reactions and follow to understand the process of cure. And this is applying all the laws of homeopathy. That is classical.
So it is actually really going back to the basics if you go to see the original
Absolutely. Absolutely.
homeopathy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And Dr. Atul, you and as well as your wife, Dr. Latika Jaggi, have had the privilege of learning homeopathy from one of the most renowned homeopaths of today. And we have mentioned his name again and again, Professor
Yeah.
George Vithoulkas from Greece.
Yeah.
After your education in homeopathy in India, so could you share what difference it brought to you personally and also in your practice?
So, Neetaji, as I said, there was a homeopathic environment. There was an acceptance. But the problem was, even after completing 5.5 years of BHMS, Bachelor's in Homeopathy, there was still a vacuum inside us, inside me especially, and the confidence was missing.
Mhm.
So, as I said, when I read Science of Homeopathy, it was clear that I need to learn from this man, Professor Vithoulkas. And we were fortunate to join the 4-year diploma that started when I was doing my internship. So I during my internship, I went to Elonesos for the first time. Now let me just describe to the listeners how the teachings of Professor Vithoulkas are different and what how they were missing in my 5.5 years of college studies. So Professor Vithoulkas, you see, the main thing is that he takes live cases in front of the students and he analyzes them in front of them and also all the follow-ups. So it's a big learning. You see the application of theory all the time. and he's always there to clarify your doubts. And this was missing in our colleges. So this is one way that he was different, by taking live cases and follow-ups. And the second most remarkable thing about Professor Vithoulkas is that we learned long-term management under him. So he would follow up a case for years, 4 years, 5 years, all difficult cases where allopathic remedies, allopathic drugs were not helping. People would come from different parts of the world, very difficult cases, and he would show the effect of homeopathy, would cure the acute problem that were coming, high fevers and everything. So learning long-term management and really bringing a lift in the level of health, this is what we witnessed under him. So you see, that vacuum was slowly getting filled up with knowledge and confidence. So this is how it helped us in practice. And then you asked personally. Now, personally, I would like to say that, you see, I consider him as a life-changing teacher. Why? Because after meeting him, I have developed, me and my wife both, love for homeopathy. So when you start loving the science, you see, you feel that you have found the mission in your life. And I thank him with folded hands for giving us this mission. And your life becomes fulfilling. It becomes so meaningful. So this is how his teachings changed us personally. We have found a mission in our life, and the love for homeopathy. And this is how it has become so beautiful.
And Dr. Atul, you have been working towards spreading this Hahnemannian teachings in India and overseas by representing the International Academy of Classical Homeopathy. You are the coordinator for the e-learning course for IACH. So what is it that you would like to achieve for homeopathy now?
As I said, now the mission is to connect young homeopaths with the teachings of Professor Vithoulkas. Because as our lives changed, we feel that we should connect young homeopaths to these teachings so that they can also get this mission and help the humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So people have this fortunate opportunity to learn sitting at their homes and benefit from it. Now, also, as you said, the future, I want to say that we are seeing that in India, MD has come about in homeopathy.
Mm.
They do their BHMS and they are doing MDs. Now, this is a good thing. But my only concern is that even in MD, we should learn in totality the human being and this subject of homeopathy in totality. And let's not specialize it as allopaths have done in their MDs. So if we do that, you see, the learning in totality will start getting missed. So it's good to follow for MDs, provided we do the complete learning. So this is what I feel, that the MDs, the people who are doing MDs, should not follow just a specialization in homeopathy, for example, only organon or only repertory. They should try to learn the whole science, and then it would be a good benefit of 3 years that they will give to MD.
The world has seen the wrath of COVID in the recent times. There has not been a single person who has not been affected directly or indirectly by this COVID.
Right.
So, what role has homeopathy played in managing this pandemic in India?
As I said, we have this department, Ayush. So homeopathic guidelines even came from them during the COVID. And we as homeopaths have treated hundreds of, even all our colleagues, they treated hundreds of patients. And we even treated patients in the ICU who were having a bad CT scan. but we could manage to cure them with homeopathy. So homeopathy is very beneficial. It has proven its mettle again and again, even in COVID. And I want to say here, Neeta ji, that our academy, the IACH, has also initiated where all the diplomats of IACH have poured in their cases, cured cases of COVID, so that they can be collected and the facts and the data can be presented to the world, that how much homeopathy was beneficial during this COVID era throughout the world.
We are looking forward to such kind of research, and that is what is missing. We are waiting for this kind of data. And I'm so glad the Academy is putting in so much of effort and resources to bring this all. So let's hope we get it very soon. In near future, we get to read about it. Yes. I would like to know, has there been at work or generally, has there been any interesting incident or situation that has made a big impact on you? I would love to know a moment that has stayed with you as a part of your journey.
Few years back, my mother had a stroke, and it was a stroke of the Broca's area. So from one moment to another, she lost her voice. She could not speak, she could not write. And the relatives came and they were forcing me to take her to the hospital because, of course, there's a damage in the brain. And I remember there were few signs of Kali bromatum. Her hands were restless, and together with the Broca's areas getting affected. So we prescribed Kali bromatum for her. And by the same evening, she was talking normally. Now, this is a life-changing moment when you witness the effect of homeopathy in such emergency and serious cases. And only when you witness them, you get goosebumps that look at this science which people criticize, which they don't want to test it, and they want to ridicule it without testing it, and what this science can do. So this was, and many such cases. We have seen effects of homeopathy in other stroke cases. I remember we had a receptionist whose blood pressure suddenly shot up and she developed left-sided paralysis. And she was very anxious. We gave her Lacasis 200, and in half an hour, she recovered back the strength in her left limbs. So such emergency cases, homeopathy is miraculous, and these change your attitude towards this beautiful and divine science.
And these are the moments they kind of they strengthen your all your efforts to keep going on this path. It's not just in case of chronic cases that so-called there's a general myth about that only in chronic cases. No, in not only in chronic, acutes, and even in emergency situations does homeopathy has its place. And if selected rightly and you have worked on your you work with principles, your results are assured.
Absolutely.
Very. That brings me to our last and my most favorite segment of the episode, and we call it a toast to homeopathy. 3 simple words, 3 most defining words: similia similibus curanter. So what I would like to do is let's say it together. So do you have your glass with you?
I have my glass with me. And before we say similia similibus curanter, can I request to say something more, please?
Please.
Since we are raising a toast, I wish that all young students get connected with George's teachings. That is, this is my wish from my heart, and I wish that very soon we hear that George gets a Nobel Prize for what he has given to homeopathy. And now let us raise together for similia
similibus curanter. So So, Dr. Atul, thank you for coming on, and we wish you super success in all your efforts to spread the knowledge of homeopathy in India and around the world.
Now, Dr. Atul and I would like to hear from you. We would like to hear the answer to one of the questions, which is, how did you get to know about homeopathy? Has there been an interesting situation or incident regarding homeopathy that has left an impact on you? Do put your answers in the comments below. With this, we come to the end of the first episode of Homeopathy Around the World, and we shall see you in the next episode with yet another exciting guest, with yet another exciting conversation in yet another exciting country. This is me, Neeta Kapoor, signing off. Thank you for watching. See you next time.